Calm down there. See, not only is Corey here, but Corey's here. I don't know. I guess I can't just, like, I'm pointing at me. I'm not pointing somewhere on the screen. But hello there, everyone. And welcome back to the Umbara mapping stream thing, where we map Umbara. Yeah. So we have the majority of the layout set up. Where's the Shift D? I don't know. I really shouldn't be met. There we go. It's Control D. But I'm gonna turn fog back on once we zoom in. But we've got a good chunk of it done last time. We got some more props done. We have the road. The road was the big thing last time, which I didn't think I'd be able to do. But I think it came out pretty nicely. I went back and I redid the lights to be on the edges to look kind of more like what they're supposed to. But we turn on the fog, and we have an Umbara experience. And yeah. So we are going to work on this kind of center line of the map. And hopefully we'll have some nice results coming out of there. But I do wish there was a bit more height variation in the playable area, like maybe a nice cliff you go on. But it's a very fieldy planet. I don't want to do much that'll mess with the passability. One thing that I do want to do, though, as we go into this area, is make sure that we make sure that we have it kind of blocked off enough, because this is very open, and it probably shouldn't remain so. I might even get rid of one of the outbase structures there, because we have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. No, that's about what we'd want in terms of number of slots. It's not something that it's not necessarily that we'll have that many slots on the planet. You probably wouldn't have 8 slots, but we want to have 8 markers to work with. Is it true that 1.0 releases on the 23rd? That is accurate. So one thing that I've been kind of considering is whether we wanted to try doing an Umbaran water feature. Because we don't really see much in the way of water in the show, but I feel like it could add a little bit of interest, like just an Umbaran stream, partially because I want to work with the props. But I'm not sure how they'll look on this map in particular. So let's see. Oh, did I not pull those over? Oops. Yeah, that's my bad. So let's not have that then. But I do kind of want to do a little Umbaran pond. And we'll see what that ends up looking like. Because it could look really bad. It's not something we really have much reference for. Where's the water table height? -10. So I think we're going to move up the water table height. There. All right. Need to make sure that I actually turned on the audio. That actually has to go pretty low. I don't know if we... Yeah, let's maybe not do that. Yeah, screw that. Right, we've changed our minds, which you're allowed to do. I do want to have... see how deep we have to go in the middle here. We'd have to go pretty deep. Yeah, let's forget about that then. Who's in the middle? And kind of the reason that you'd want to go down these side roads, oops, is because the main road would be so protected. So it makes sense to have a lot of turbo lasers that are going down this central part to encourage people to go to the sides if they are trying to avoid that. If you're going to have these areas, then even if you're going to have one or two turrets somewhere, you want to have a reason to not necessarily go down the central canyon, or the central valley, as it were. So we are going to just rearrange some of that, move them off the road. Because we come out of this area, that can be accessed. Let's keep this a little bit higher. We got one more infantry only area that we want to set up in here. And we're just going to move some of these build pads out. So we're going to change where all these are set up. But use your big brain and make a game based on this engine, etc. I mean, you couldn't really make a game on this engine that isn't just a mod for this game without licensing the engine. Very expensive. If we were going to make our own game, or I was going to make my own game, whether with the team or otherwise, then it'd be probably using like Unity or something. And if you try to do a standalone game, and you can't do Star Wars. So let's see if we can get... I want the little house on the prairie. There we go. Well, I appreciate that, Vader's Fist, but you don't gotta do that. That is a lot of money. You probably have better uses for it. Let's get... We haven't done much with the very big floofy grass for a while. So let's get the very big floofy grass. Let's put it in some places on this side. Alright, we're going to start fleshing this out with some of the floofy grass. And we'll get some of the other grass. And I kind of want to use the grass to mark where some of this infantry-only territory is. And I think the big thing is just going to be having something that's a bit more visually interesting in this area. Because... like, yeah, we've got the little plants and shit around here. This is going to turn into a forest, and I'll probably make it a bit more sparse on the outside parts where people aren't going to be coming in. But we're going to try to use those to kind of visually break up where the infantry-only paths are versus the regular terrain. There we go. Rather than doing this again, I think I like I think this I did the best, so let's just copy it. And then that's just a starting point. Because we're going to move stuff around. I'm just going to copy paste it. And I'm going to use some of this to make the walls a little bit more canyon-y. We should also get some of the textures. So where's this wall? Oh, that's the road. We want this one. In behind the rocks. In behind the rocks. And now let's move the spotlights. So we want them to kind of be on these edges. Highlighting it. I'm gonna do a yeah. It's so hard to grab the thing you actually want sometimes. But there we go. Alright, so you can either send infantry in here earlier, or you can try to go around here with vehicles. That would be access to the outbase structures, but the infantry can keep going up there. And we'll probably have something like a sensor up here to fight over. Maybe a mine instead, we'll see. So Umbara backup, and we want to save Umbara. Please no crash. Alright, there we go. Alright, now let's get the textures. So we're gonna want to make this look kind of like what we have in the other places already. So we're following the same style. We want to highlight the areas, or shade the areas that you're not going to be going in. And at least give some reason or some other visual indications that this terrain is different from the other terrain. So this is accessible, but it's going to be a bit heavier on the other textures because it's infantry only. And you generally want to make sure people can like look and know what's actually accessible or not. Sometimes that's accomplished through height. Sometimes you got to do a little bit more. So like this, we've still got pretty low. And we're kind of doing this as like coming out of the canyon-y area. So we'll need to do a little bit more with the props to show that you can't get in here. Otherwise, people would just be like, I can see a gap. Why can't I get in there? And that's when people get angry. That's when my inbox gets... Alright, let's add those to the object list. Let's get our spray tool. Higher spacing, scatter intensities down a bit, scatter radius up a bit. And then we'll do more of the particulars with the rocks. Alright. So get our pencil tool. Move these guys around so that we don't have any overlapping that shouldn't happen. We'll have more of this kind of surrounded by the rocks. These rocks are usually also a good indicator of like, hey, you can't be here right now. So the heavier the rocks around this area, the better. What are those light beams? They're basically just like spotlights. Yeah, you can, if you look at one of the pictures of Umbara with the capital city, you can see one coming out of like the center of the city. It's just one white one, but the color of the picture is kind of weird. So I figured I'd take that and use it as a way to kind of light up some of the darker areas. It doesn't really add environmental lighting, but it does add a few more points of visual interest. Because it is otherwise a very dreary thing, or a very bleak and dreary planet. And like with a lot of maps, you have a lot more ability to use different props. Whereas on Umbara, the style of the planet is so fixed that like Colin did a great job making new props specifically for it. But that does mean that like for a planet like this or Christophsis, we kind of need to use just stuff that matches that visual style and can't use the other props we have quite as much. Alright, this rock cluster here, I'm going to drop into the ground a bit. We're going to do that. One extra in there. I mean, it seems like EA's license is going to be renewed. It just also seems like EA is more likely to start licensing out smaller companies now. Or like doing more Star Wars games and sometimes doing them with people who aren't companies they own. I guess there's nothing wrong with having this be kind of more of an open field. I am going to try to do another one of these little kind of separated areas. So let's go with that. And let's get some of the tendril-y ones around them. Some of the little guys in there as well, and we'll use this as kind of like a basis for where we're going to be texturing out of, because we want to make sure we're still going with a path but not a like fully developed path, just kind of enough to direct the map but not enough to give an idea that this is like a road, just that it's the way the map develops. Well, the thing to keep in mind isn't, like, it's not an EA, it's not an exclusivity deal in that only one developer can make the games. It's an exclusivity deal essentially where EA took over what LucasArts used to do. So it's an exclusivity with a publisher. So they're basically handling all the publishing side, where, like, originally with LucasArts, like, LucasArts would publish them, and then most games are handled by like whatever company would want to make them. Like Petroglyph made Empire at War, like BioWare and Obsidian did Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2, Ravensoft with Jedi Academy, whichever. But that's kind of the same situation. It's just EA was slotting in for LucasArts. And the way EA decided to approach it initially was having fewer games, and they were using their own developers for that. So DICE being the obvious one with Battlefront, and then there's like Motive for Squadrons, Respawn for Fallen Order. And I don't know if Respawn was actually owned by EA, but like there was never anything stopping EA from still contracting out other studios the exact same way. It's just, it made more sense to Disney for Disney to license out a publisher to do that instead of them handling it internally and trying to restructure LucasArts, which still exists as an entity, but not like as fleshed out as it was because LucasArts was struggling a lot before the buyout. Like LucasArts was having a lot of issues. So EA's strategy seems to be changing, where they have said they want to do more Star Wars games, like shifting from fewer Star Wars games less often and trying to be more like broad appeal with those to something like Fallen Order or Squadrons, which are slightly more niche, but also you can have more coming out and you're just trying to appeal to those niches. It's not like Disney licensed EA and the idea was that like it's a fixed official thing that only one company can ever make Star Wars games. It's that one company is now licensing them, or one company is now publishing them. Like no matter who makes the Star Wars games, it would still function pretty much the same way, because there's a difference between a publisher and a developer. Like the entire time, EA could have been publishing a game from Petroglyph. They don't have to own the company for it. And if you're making a Star Wars game, you need a pretty big publisher for it. That's why they had LucasArts. Because like even if you are doing a smaller company developing it, if like for example Petroglyph did another Star Wars game, it would not be Petroglyph publishing it. And it's a very important distinction that I think gets kind of glossed over. But yeah, how powerful the Umbara unit's going to be when you put them in? I mean, appropriately powerful. We don't have any stats for them yet because we don't have any assets for them yet, though there'll probably be some of the ideally sooner stuff that gets done going forward. Well, yeah, with like the microtransaction issues that the Battlefront had initially, that was likely EA and not DICE. But it seems like with their decisions to do more games, it seems like they learned from that, and there's also a lot more of letting those studios do what makes sense to them, other than like your typical oversight for Star Wars for like continuity and stuff, where I believe Squadrons actually was working on their own Starhawk design, for example, but then they're like, no, we have one, use this, from like the stuff that was used for FFG. And I think I did a video on that on Datapad recently, but like if you talk to the Squadrons developers, it's basically they were allowed to do their passion project, and that's a good thing. And I hope we get more games like Squadrons that are, even if they're more niche, like it may not appeal to you, but it seems like the direction that EA wants to go is publishing more games, and there will be more room for them to approve other companies doing it. It's like, this is something that I bring up every time this conversation comes up in like TapCaf and stuff, where a lot of the times this conversation misses out on the context that the Star Wars games had before EA, and also that the gaming industry, or the game industry as a whole, had throughout the last 10 years, where there were fewer games published in general. It's not something that's unique to Star Wars. And before EA got the license, LucasArts was struggling. Like, they canceled a lot of projects before EA got the license. So again, it's just EA slotting in where LucasArts did and handling it slightly differently, which again, it seems like that's changing and that's a good thing, but the point is more like, it doesn't need to not be EA for that to change. And it seems unlikely that it's not going to be EA. Because the chances of... Unless Disney has been working on getting LucasArts back up to where it was before, which doesn't seem to be their focus with EA existing and having that deal. Maybe after the next renewal, that'd be what happens. But nothing I've heard has indicated that's what they're doing at the moment. Like, we can get those positive changes in how they publish the games without necessarily removing it from EA. The Umbaran units would either be influence-based or part of the CIS roster, so I don't think we do like an in-tactical battle capturable thing that spawns units for you, though that would depend on how we do indigenous units on top of that, because there'll definitely be like galactic level Umbaran units for the CIS in some capacity, but... But the one who dislikes it, you can't bump under shield. I mean, some people prefer it the other way, but the thing is, it's better. Like, when you are designing it that way, you're basically designing around fighters and bombers being the only important thing. Like, the whole gameplay kind of revolves around them. And, like, bombers are still very important with the way it's set up in Empire War Expanded. It's just, it's not quite as centered just around them. Like, if you want to do it the other way, you tend to have like smaller, much more focused battles, definitely smaller numbers of fighters, and you are developing around the idea that the fighters and bombers are the core of the battle. Because, like, especially it's something that gives the player a huge advantage as well. Because, like, it's a strategy that is a huge force multiplier for the player. Like, most things end up being a force multiplier for the player, but shield penetration in particular is something that the player will always execute like disproportionately better than the AI, even if you compare it in the context of like the player being better than AI in every other factor. So like usually what happens is people have shield penetration, they kill like 6 trillion units and like, look at how good I am at this game, and then they lose it, and it's like you have to play more with like the fleet composition, with how you use the other units, rather than just, oh look, I'm now sniping that shield generator like I always do. And it ends up meaning that you are more prone to probably losing some units. Well, yeah, the AI cheats, but like you're making it easy to never lose any units at all, which is more like the AI cheating is something that you set up in particular to offset the advantage the player is going to inherently have and the advantage the player will have as the game progresses. But if you're trying to offset the AI cheating by having a strategy that is often just going to mean you almost never lose units, then if you're trying to use that comparison, then you need to make the AI cheat even more. Like, we'd basically have to have it so that Cruel AI is our new base AI, and then Cruel would have to be like a 10 times multiplier on that. Like, the AI doesn't just cheat in RTSs accidentally. It's used to offset other factors. But if the core gameplay loop becomes something that the AI can't really even attempt to do, then that's more of an issue. Any change to the planet layout? Not sure what you mean by that. You mean like the galactic map locations and stuff? Because I do want to... Like, one of the things I want to focus on in future builds is some visual upgrades on the galactic level, make it a bit more clear in some ways, or just nicer to look at, but that hasn't been a focus on this release. I tried a few things, didn't really like how they went, so I just went back to what we had. Friendly fire be a thing on this map. So we used to have friendly fire on all projectiles in the mod. Usually what happened was the AI tries to do an orbital bombardment or a bombing run, and they just kill all of their units. It was kind of funny, but it was also not ideal. Alright, so we're coming out to the main road here. And I think I am going to leave this largely open, because we don't have as much open space on this map to fight just in this area. I'd like to get the little lampposts that go along the highway. That'd be one more prop that I'd like to do. And I think Colin might have made it. There were one or two props that he made that I wasn't able to get rigged in yet. So I'm basically going to be finishing the map, and then at some point in the future I'm going to come back through and add some of those other ones. So we got the darker ones, and I'm going to, along the side more than anything, do some of this medium tone. There we go. And can I fit a medium Umbara building here? No, let's get some trees. And I'm gonna make a bit of a path between all of them. Some grass. Again, we just kind of want to show rough path directions. Make sure we're highlighting some of the right areas. Are raid troops ever planned to be part of the mod? No. Definitely not TR or Fall of the Republic. I could just make some actual curved versions of these, but I'm not gonna do that. You know what? I don't think this... No, I don't think we're gonna do that there. We're just gonna try to set up some nice foliage around their houses. Defending forces back here. I think having a landing zone there. Control. Okay. So, yeah, we'll... Just gonna raise this up a little bit. Did the team ever have problem motivating yourself to work on the mods? It's like such a daunting... I mean, yeah. There's always going to be times when you're more or less interested in it. Like... There have been entire years where we've done basically nothing. Like, when I was... I think between, like, 2014 and 2017, there was, like, very little that happened on the mod, and between like 2012 and 2014 we were only really working on Thrawn's Revenge because like, oh, we're making the assets for Ascendancy, so we may as well put him in Thrawn's Revenge as well. So it wasn't... It's not always something we're all doing all the time. Like, we all take time off or have periods where we're more or less interested. Like, for me, it's been a bit easier to stay motivated since I've been doing the channel, because it's easier for me to tie it into what I'm doing for work. Because like right now, I'm working because I'm streaming. But especially for others on the team, they don't really have the same incentives, so we all have different amount of time that we dedicate to the mod, or some of us will have time one month and then not the next month, or so there's a bunch of factors there. You ever play Space Engineers? I've tried Space Engineers once for a few minutes. It didn't go super well. My computer couldn't handle it at the time. Game is this. This is the map editor for Star Wars Empire at War. So this isn't the game itself, but it's making a map for the game. Pong Krell isn't necessarily on the list of things that we're definitely doing, but he's not impossible for us to do eventually. So I kind of want to make this like an elevated area that you can go on. Because I feel like we've got enough of these little side areas. I've played Hearts of Iron like once. I did a mostly full playthrough on the channel with Scarecrow, and that was it. But I have not played Oh, fuck. I've not played any Star Wars mods for it now. Wasted's been pretty vocal about his opinion on whether new people should try to get into space engineers recently. This might be a mistake. I want this to be accessible. I don't know if I want this to be accessible. Empire worded trenches very well? No. That's, yeah, that's asking for targeting issues, especially. Yeah, I don't like this. I think we are going to do another forested area. I'm going to avoid taking any of the... there, 'cause that's just going to be our guide. Just want the props out there. I think we're going to keep that kind of recessed, and we're going to go a little bit farther out with this. I think that'll be kind of interesting. Let's get the additive code brush, because it is... it's unplayable area, so we can do a little bit more with different heights. So it wasn't like a super smooth valley in the show. With EAW, you kind of got to keep things relatively smooth where you're actually playing, because otherwise stuff will just shoot into the ground and be like, I'm helping! When really, it's not actually helping at all. Let's shoot a couple over there. Like, this is supposed to be a bit more overgrown, so we're going to use the heavier grass a little bit more. Especially as we get towards this end. Let's clear the object list. Now I'm gonna just select all of you again. And we've got the same settings as we had. You are just planting... okay, that's not helpful. Not quite what I wanted, but I guess I can work around it. Oh, those actually aren't, they aren't the same ones. Never mind. Some of them are, obviously. Hey, Black Wolf. Alright, so we can do more of the texture on this side. Like, a lot of the work on saying where you can and can't go is going to be from that texture. The wildest trees. Make sure they're facing some different directions so they don't all look the same. Have you played the Dawn of War games? No. I have not. More around there. And then this texture is going to get swapped out there because this will remain playable. How do you make terrain impassable? So that'll be one of the next things we end up doing. As we come here, and then there's the, oh, not the leveling code brush, we want the passability code brush. And then you just paint. So for example, in areas, oh, I'm gonna wait for this to save. No, whenever you're ready there, editor. Okay, thank you. I was actually quite upset at you, so I'm glad. So there's clear, steep, water, infantry only, and impassable. So this is an area that we want to be infantry only. So you just paint it infantry only, and we want it to be kind of big there. So do that. And that's how that works. Then we want this area to be steep. Steep being that flying vehicles can go over it, other vehicles and infantry can't walk over it. So that's red. This is all steep. You'd also put this under like structures, for example. Or in trees. You want to make sure you get the whole area, or else there could be like a lat that comes and drops stuff off. Which can still sometimes happen, but you got that. Then we just clean that up a bit. Then we want steep again. This is all steep. This is going to be steep. So we want that all to be inaccessible. But we basically have to paint out all the areas in the map that we want to have special passability rules. Yeah, so at the end of the map, that's basically what we go around doing. So I'm going to save as Umbara backup. There's already a map with a lot of objects on it. that's basically what that is. No. So these turrets obviously aren't always going to be there. There needs to be something actually built there. But I'm going to get rid of these. And even that. Instead, we're going to have one here. So we'll rotate up there. I'm just going to do it that way. Nope, I don't want you to be owned. And you are also not supposed to be owned. There's like 4,500 objects right now. So I might have to go through and delete a lot of stuff. Especially in these thicker, denser areas. It's not the most, but it's probably more than I'd like. Especially being ground covers. So it'll definitely be an app that needs some testing. I mean, Mad Hatter, difficulty in getting to the airbase basically means like what the units do. It's at the end of the road. You can't make it accessible and difficult just from the terrain, because that means just like make it so that EAW's pathfinding has an issue with it, and that's not typically what you want to do in EAW. So EAW's pathfinding has enough issues with just existing. Is Duro getting a new map? Yep. It has a new map, I believe. Well, it definitely has a new map. I can't remember if it was purpose-built for Duro or if it's just a different map that's been given to Duro. But I think it was purpose-built. I'm going to line some of the road with that now. I'm going to keep following our path. I don't want to have too much of a straight line there. That's not good. The round buildings, indigenous soldier spot. No, we don't have any Umbarans made yet, so they're just props right now. Though eventually, we will have Umbarans, and they will spawn from those structures. You go there, angle like that. And you go there, and angle like that. Actually, let's have that right at the intersection of these two areas. There we go. Right now, so we were not taking bug reports for the existing version because so much has changed that it's... Well, like a lot of stuff that would be reported has been fixed. This is not intended to be a victory point map, no, because I put the base in the air base right there. Tatooine isn't getting a new map, no. We will eventually be making Umbaran vehicles, but that's a lot of assets, and we had other priorities for this release. So there are no Umbaran units for this release. Oops. Accidentally moved the Vixus. We do not want to do that, because it's vicious Vixus. I think this was a new texture from before we finish this area, so I am gonna go through there. I mean, it's likely that the CIS would be able to produce them as either influence units or a core part of the roster and send them elsewhere. Like, we have the influence system in the mods and we apply units that way. But again, there's no Umbaran units right now, so there are no specific plans on how they are going to be implemented. So it's kind of out of scope right now. It's not really something I can answer properly. And anything I say now would just change. Or be very likely to change. Yeah, Republic at War is a different mod. This is for Fall of the Republic, which is our own Clone Wars mod. Do we want this to be... Do we want this to be open? That could be fun. It would kind of... I feel like if we did that, we need to close this off more. But this is kind of like the main open area. So let's get them in there. And I haven't really done as much with rocks on this half. Could be another infantry only path. I think I do want to do that. Make it a bit easier for infantry to get around on this map than vehicles. So I'm going to have to line this a little bit so that I can tell where I want to put that path. It'll be right in there. I'll just have it set like that. There we go. I think that's what we want. So I'll cut some of this back. I'll move that flag. This is getting very close to the base. I want to get rid of most of this darker stuff on the playable area. And the bigger splotches. There we go. And put another one of those there. Yeah, ISDs were actually developed during the Clone Wars. That's why they're in the mod. It's not unrealistic. Let's start with making darker around the rocks. And then between them, we'll have some of this more worked ground around the fill pad. Kind of doing a curve around this rock with the dirt road almost. Just getting us into the base area, coming out at the airstrip almost. We want to make sure it's not all connecting, but we still want it to be more solid than not for this stuff. This is what the camera angle in game looks like. Alright. And then we can grab some of the grass. Get some ground cover coming in. I want to make sure that even on the places that aren't like fully forested, it's still a kind of overgrown planet, right? So, or like a lot of these are farmers' fields, or the field should be relatively clear up there. No, 3.0 doesn't have any new cannon ships. The only new cannon ship that we have, like exclusively new cannon ship that we have, is the MC-75 submod. That's it. A little bit of concrete around the front of these guys. Well, Umbara concrete. It's still like, it's the same material as the roads, but it's still, I think, a valid use. Just to keep it similar, but also distinct from the other terrain around it. So like it is still kind of blended and growing over. But you never really want to use hard edge because that happens. Like, you want to use that if you're using very controlled square areas, but other than that, you kind of just gotta go with it. Do what you can. The Mandalorian season is not about to rework canon. Anyone who tells you otherwise is clickbaiting. Some like Grace Randolph shit. Alright, Umbara backup. So we'll save Umbara backup, and then we're going to go back to Umbara front up. Also, please try to keep Mandalorian spoilers out. Because I know a lot of people haven't had a chance to see that yet. Oops, that's not what we want. Having big intentions for Grogu doesn't really mean they're retconning the sequels. There's literally no connection there. Is Boba going to be in Thrawn's Revenge? Boba's already in Thrawn's Revenge. He was a Greater Maldrute hero, and in the upcoming version, you can recruit him as part of the bounty hunter mechanics. So, the random bounty hunter recruitment. As for Fall of the Republic, he is a child, and I am generally against child soldiers. So we will not be including Boba in Fall of the Republic. Wow, I didn't think that would get such a vociferous response. Oh, Star Wars, never change. Alright, we need some you and you. Oh, that's not what I wanted. So to have a planet have something change if another planet has a value, like Coruscant and out of our control, therefore you gain an income boost on Kuat due to... no. You wouldn't be able to have, like, extra steps like that. I mean, technically you could, like, spawn a building when that case is true, but yeah, there's not really any situations where we do quite that. Let's send another one of you up here, up there. All right, this is a pretty sparse one. We don't need all of it filled past the line. We need something else here. We got the sensor node. We're gonna put, yeah, we're gonna leave that there. I'm gonna get the fences. The fences, it's annoying. This is what I'm kind of talking about, where like these aren't the most sticky outy, but with Umbara you kind of need Umbaran props. So where in other maps I'd probably be able to work with a little bit more with this, it's a bit more restricted because Umbara. But if we fence this off, thank you, Eugene, for the $10 donation. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Can you please talk in German because I don't understand it? Oh. Then I think we'll run into a problem where I won't understand me either if I tried to speak in German. And I'm not necessarily putting my understanding above any individual Germans, but given the circumstances, I'm going to have to prioritize things that way. Hey Shaq, how's it going? I might have to delay the stream a little bit if I'm going to go learn German. Like you to talk in cheer. Okay, I can do that. I can't do that very well. That was more like a choking pug than a Wookiee. I'm never doing that again. All right. How's it going, Shaq? Gotta get you GMing again. Once everyone finally shows back up. Look, sometimes pugs get into places they're not supposed to get, and I can't control them, so... You fixed the lat pathfinder? Yeah, so we've made the lats more like they're very responsive now. I'd like to find other ways to put in kind of their floatier movement, but we won't do it at the expense of their utility anymore. Like, we were trying some stuff with that, and then it didn't work, so it's cut. And that's just the way it goes sometimes. Will there be any way to play the mods without the ship crew resource? No, only by modding it out yourself. As I've responded to your comments about this pretty much every time, Eagle, where like, yes, we get that some people just want to blow shit up, but the whole purpose of these mechanics is to make it so that it's possible to blow shit up. Because if the AI can never recover, then you only get one fight out of it. And we're not developing the mod 2 times in parallel because some people, in theory, do not like certain mechanics. Like, this is far from the only RTS that will have had two resources. It's far less of a thing to get used to than you seem to be thinking. It just requires a bit more infrastructure building. All right. I kind of want another Vixus. Will I do another RimWorld stream? Yes. I love RimWorld. Will the vendor become gray after Order 66? No. The reason... Well, part of the reason that we don't do that is that like the Empire wouldn't have like immediately painted everything, and the other reason is that if we were to do that, we'd need a new Venator variant just to switch the color on it. So we'd need to like respawn all of them, which would be a lot of tracking and spawning for a pretty minor thing that, again, isn't necessarily something that would have happened immediately in universe. Yeah, like basically the mod ends with Order 66. There's like slight reorganization to the Empire, but you're still functionally the Republic. Like, you're the Empire in name, but you're not like years deep. If and when Imperial Reign does what it's doing, that's where we'd be doing like gray Imperial vendors on top of Thrawn's Revenge, where they already are. Another Vixus pit. Put another tree next to it. People do be liking trees. Any other hero units you're working on that you can tell us about? I mean, other than Ahsoka, there's nothing that's really in progress as far as heroes go that isn't going to be in 1.0. Like Ahsoka, we have her head done, but she'd just be a floating head right now, which is not ideal for a hero unit. That is a shame shack. Personally, Venator's definitely overrated. They can't even take out an executor. Like, I put some people on figuring that out, and the results are what the results are. Disappointing, to be sure, but, you know, can't change how it is. There won't be Umbaran natives right away. Umbaran units will be something we work on later, but not for 3.0. Like, as we flesh out a lot of the core rosters, we're getting to the point where that kind of thing would be higher priority. But, well, Umbarans may end up being in, like, the units first, like the ships, the maybe one or two of the tanks, they'd probably be done first, and then the actual Umbarans themselves would probably be sometime after that. So we do want to do more broad reworks of indigenous units. So it doesn't make as much sense to set up new stuff for that until we know exactly what form we need them all in. Yep, there are clone commandos, generic clone commandos in 1.0. I think I said in the patch notes video that Delta or Omega Squad was somewhere, but that's a lie. As far as I know, that's the only lie that I told. So I'm not above just coding them in somewhere so that I didn't lie. Definitely better than editing the video. Is Umbara going to be available for both mods? Technically, there's nowhere in TR that it's used. I don't know that there will be anywhere that it's ever used. Because, like, we basically have to pick what's the most sensible thing for any given map. So there's not really any point in TR's time frame where Umbara is relevant. But, like, it's in Tor, so it'll probably show up in Revan's Revenge. It's not really an area where we have a lot of empty space, or like a lot of need to fill space, which would kind of be the other way that it would be likely to show up in TR. But Just edge off the edges. So, Ek did exactly the same thing that you did with that shack. Like, 100% exactly the same thing. Like, within a few days. So, you weren't alone in that. And then I just started my own playthrough. And I think in the first episode or two, or in the first few episodes, I think I got Yularen killed. I don't think I actually got Delta Squad killed. So not quite as bad, but you're not alone. If there's one thing us YouTubers need to stick together over, it's people getting angry at us in comments over losing heroes. Where that's probably the thing I get the most hate for. And I have so many other bad qualities that you'd think they'd find something else, but it's always just that. I like picture them trying to go to bed at night, just thinking, they lost a hero. How dare they? Thank you, Creo, for the $10 donation. Can't wait for the update. Well, hope you enjoy it. I don't know what they... Oh, nope, we're good. I don't think you'll be in frame. How was walked?
That was fine.
Now it just seems like I'm trying to hide you, and it's not your own wishes. Get back under the stairs, Dana.
We got someone else's package.
Did we?
Yeah.
Like a neighbor that we can go hand it to, or a very wrong...
It is on the street. But it's literally in a different postal code.
Huh.
We're
Alright.
off by 100.
So I guess we work for Canada Post now?
Yeah.
We have to go for a walk?
It's like, how do you get that wrong? Okay, the only difference is one number, but still. I feel like the fact that there's a different postal code should point you in the right direction.
We got mail for the previous occupants as well. So
Nice.
we have a lot of redirection to do.
But we got an actual card for us, though.
We did.
Do you know who that one's from?
My Aunt Debbie. If you're talking about the one on the table.
Yes.
Okay. Unless you're just like asking me about one that just showed up in the mail. I am
No.
not clairvoyant.
The one that's plus Dana, too. How's Umbara?
Umbara is almost done-ish. Thank you, Nicholas, for the $5 donation. The hero died. What? How can you do this? This is outrageous. It's unfair. How can you be the developer and kill heroes? Yeah. There was someone who was like very angry at me and started like going to mod database to comment about it, and was like telling me I needed to save scum instead of losing the heroes. Like, I lost the heroes. They're gone. We all just need to learn how to move on with our lives and accept it. Yeah, so one of the things that we've been putting a lot of thought into is ways to kind of like give downsides to SSDs or make them have clear opportunities to use them without making them like the obvious best choice. And like the power of the SSDs, we feel like we've got an okay handle on, but there are some other like galactic level side effects to them or requirements for them to stay operational, like other drains they provide in your economy. That we want to do to make them both less common and once they're there, more of a choice of when you actually do want to use them rather than like obvious, I'm going to throw this at everything. Like, you can lose them, and some players do lose them, but it's not quite where we want it. Like a highway blocks. Because I was requested to speak German, so Gesundheit.
Hmm?
I was requested earlier to only speak in German, so Gesundheit.
Uh-huh.
I didn't eat a single sugar cookie today.
No.
No. I know you were worried. You'd come home and they'd all be gone.
You're good.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking what happened right now. I'm starving.
So the mispronunciation thing I get on some stuff too, like the Viscount, where there's a lot of stuff that'll just be like Americans say it one way and then British people and Canadians would say it a different way. So anytime something like that comes up, then there's always I'm not even sure if Viscount is the correct American pronunciation, but like the correct pronunciation is Viscount. But if I say Viscount, things get angry. Alright, need steep here, all the way around. I tried to line some of these props up as well as I could so that it'd be obvious where I need to do the passability. I feel like that's going to take some refinement. Yeah, the Architens is officially just renamed to the Light Cruiser class Light Cruiser, so no one ever has to say it again. And I'm sure that'll make your life easier. At a certain point, it just like turns into I'm going to say something however I want to get the reaction. Get those interaction metrics. That's all that matters. Alright, this is going to be infantry only, I think. No, this is not going to be infantry only. Possibility still. This is not infantry only. Can't remember if that was the plan, but it's definitely not what's happening now. I don't love the height variation there, so I'm gonna have to be a bit more strict with this. I do think that works best as an infantry-only pathway, though. So we are going to do that, and then I'll probably need to do some extra propage. Just to clarify that that is what that is. So, steep. And then we have the base shield. There. If you get 1 million subs, will you stop working for Ek? I mean, I don't technically work for Ek. I do some stuff for X2 sometimes, but that's like more of a if I do it, then stuff happens kind of thing. Rather than I have like X amount that I have to do. Ha ha ha. So I don't know that I'd be making X2 videos if I like suddenly somehow jumped up to 1 million subs. But like as it is right now, I just kind of do it when I have the time and there's a topic that I don't feel like doing on just my channel. Would be like I try not to do anything that would be redundant, basically. And or if I'm reaching the same audience, then I try not to do it the same way. But yeah. Paid an exposure. Technically, we're both paid for TapCaf and exposure in that it's the thing we do that both of us like takes the most time, makes us the least money. So it's about as valuable as usual exposure deals are. So please listen to TapCaf. Featuring special guest Captain Shack someday. If he ever wants to read a Star Wars book. We'd let you pick. I think he has asked you that before. We'll make it as painless as possible. All right. So as far as like fog and stuff goes, you can like we have the EAW style fog on, but as far as like weather effects, I don't know if you'd be able to make like basically a particle-less rain that reduces the visibility, because like snow and rain and stuff, those weathers have it. But I'm not sure how applying that to something else would work necessarily. No problem. I mean, we did have Charlie on. We're not even sure he can read, so... Alright, I think... this is at... about a testable point. Will there be special Umbara troops available? Not yet. That'll all be coming later. Alright, so we're going to save Umbara backup, then we're going to save Umbara front up. I'm going to generate the AI hint zones. Well, Charlie was really good on the Mando episodes. He did a really good job. As much as Ek and I made fun of him, he was a great guest. Once there's a new show episode coming out every 3 days for like 17 different shows, then it'll be really easy for us to do TapCaf episodes. But until then, we have to read. See you, Vaderfist. All right. Let's get rid of that. There we go. This just kind of tells the AI what's going on in different areas on the map. It also makes it look like a giant farmer's field. So now we can save as Umbara. And I don't think... there's anything else that I need to do here. I think I've already done everything. I think. Yeah, it seems right. We have all the markers. The attacker entry, we have the thingy. Is it possible to do night maps? I mean, this is kind of as close as that gets. You kind of want to fake darkness. You never want to have it be too dark, because otherwise it's like you can't see anything. So that's going to be one of my main concerns while testing for this, to make sure that you can actually see what's going on, while still keeping an idea that it's dark. And there are a few maps that don't do that properly yet, but nope, we're not doing Burio. There we go, switch recording. So we are going to test this. Data, XML. Sorry, it'll be a black screen for a second until I get the game launched. Bear with. Umbara is now going to be Umbara, fittingly. It would start off Republic, right? I forget what it belongs to and which GCs. I mean, the mappers need to coordinate. Like, all the disciplines kind of need to coordinate a fair bit. That's been one of my hardest adjustments over the last 2 years. Is like, before there was a much smaller number of people working on the mods, so it was a lot easier to manage. It was generally easy to keep an idea of like what everyone wants to do, where everyone's at with everything, and make sure that all fit together, make sure everyone was doing stuff that wouldn't step on each other's toes, and make sure everyone kind of knew what needed to be done. And now there's a bit more like actual management that goes into that than before. We've had to use stuff like GitHub a lot more. I've had to like delegate responsibility for like telling people they're kind of looking after this or that a bit more. Like, I used to know literally every change that went on in the mod at all times. And now I'm broadly aware of what we're planning to do, because I usually set that out. I'm broadly aware of what everyone's doing, but when it comes to specifics of what every person's doing, that's less the case. I think we started CIS in Era 3. No, Era 4 at least. Because it's Republic controlled in the GC we're doing now, so I may as well just go with that. How is Revenge coming on? We are not actively working on that yet. We're starting to put more stuff together for it. We've got like the basic rosters, like the starting rosters mostly planned. But we have a lot of roster stuff planned, but we just set out like the first 5 units we want to do for each, or 3 of the 5 for some of them. That's kind of what we're doing right now. We'll start doing some of the assets.
System conquered.
Where are you? God damn it. Did I set the arrow differently than I thought? Oh, because I switched to... I think that's what happened. My bad.
System conquered.
Arquentin's responding.
On my way, Commander. Moving into positions on your
Alright,
command.
so let's see.
Republic light cruiser responding.
There's nothing we can't handle. Tactical battle imminent.
Let's see. This is like the first map I've done in years, too, so I definitely fucked something up, I just don't know what. Ladies and gentlemen, I got a sugar cookie. Right, this actually looks better than I thought it would. Like, I can clearly see where the units are, so that's good. That's one thing I was kind of concerned about. Let's see if we can find a Vixus and see if that was actually working. Oh, there we go. The Vixus. Just gonna grab and chomp. Have a snack. Grab some more snacks there, Mr. Vixus. Nom 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 nom. Good stuff. Okay, so I do want to clear out this a little bit more. So the one thing that I'm really looking at and seeing as an issue is that some of this area is not as clear as it needs to be for infantry only. Nope, the Vixus... Oh shit, what the fuck? Did that just eat a Droideka? That looked pretty cool. But no, the Vixus I did by modifying the Sarlacc.
Choose your reinforcements.
Now I need to try Juggernaut. Okay, I was really concerned that the default zoom would be kind of like in like this. But I am pretty pleased. We'll have to see what testing, like further testing does. But yeah, I don't hate it. And I was very worried I was going to hate it. Uh-oh. Oh, that's my computer freezing. Okay, that's fine. I thought the game was crashing, it was just my computer freezing. That's fine.
Lock it down. Going in. Defensive positions.
AT-AT destroyed.
Alright. Well, I think I'm gonna have to go make dinner. So
Bombing
I'm
run available.
gonna end up giving this off to the testers for testing or not. The mod is releasing on Wednesday. Most maps, there's been so many maps done over the last few days that aren't making it in, but because of executive privilege, I get to do whatever the hell I want with the stuff I make. So, yeah. But hope you guys have enjoyed the streamed creation of Umbara. I think I did pretty much all the work in these streams. Obviously, the road wasn't something that or the road texture edits I didn't stream. But you guys saw most of the process there. There's still some changes that need to happen. But I do want to make sure that this one, because Umbara is such like an iconic planet, or such a visually distinct planet, I want to make sure that we get this map in. But yeah, so hope you're looking forward to the mod's release. Hope you enjoyed the stream. And have a good night, everyone. Sorry, Terrible. You have terrible timing. Haha.